Marija Shaka is the chief observer for the EU Observer Mission in Kenya, and she joins me now from Brussels. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. A lot of people are unhappy that the EU Observer Mission, the Carter Center, all the other observer groups were very quick to rubber stamp this election. Why was that possible? Why did you do that?
Well, I don't believe that the EU mission that I led in any way rubber stamped these elections. I hope people will go back, look at my speeches, the statements we put out, and we'll see the very critical points that we made when it came to the use of technology or the rushed and unprepared timelines, the abuse of state resources, the conduct by the security forces, and many other points that are relevant. But of course, we also noted that so many millions of Kenyans were eager to cast their vote and that election day was calm.
If that is the case, why did you say there were no signs, to your best knowledge, of localized or centralized manipulation?
So you're pointing to the element of my preliminary statement that reflected on election day. And you will also see comments about the campaign process where we commented on, for example, the fact that people were paid to participate in rallies, which is against Kenyan law. And I think it's important for all Kenyans that are now concerned and wondering what observation missions are about to know that we are impartial, we are independent, we have no preference of who wins, but we deeply care about the rights of all Kenyans being respected.
How can you say you care about the rights of Kenyans being respected when half of the Kenyans feel that the observer missions, not just yourself, but the others also, were very keen to propagate the remaining of the Jubilee government and President Kenyatta in office? Is that true?
No, that's not true.
People feel that the EU Observer Mission, I want to say specifically because that's the team you led here, should not have been so quick to issue a statement, even if it was a preliminary statement, before the outcome had come in, when the opposition, NASA, had already been raising concerns about some of the issues they had seen in the process.
So, of course, we are reflecting now, I'm reflecting now on what lessons we can learn. And the timing of speaking to the public is always a delicate issue. Because on the one hand, there is a very clear demand for our observations. Some people would prefer us to speak immediately after the votes are cast. So on election day itself, others say wait. We came out 2 days after the elections with a preliminary statement. And we came out 1 day after the elections encouraging the uploading of forms and the tallying process to go on in line with the Constitution. Later that week, I made a statement when civil society organizations saw their licenses revoked, and we underlined the very, very critical importance of civil society to be able to freely do their work. So there were several statements made at different moments in time. I tried to be as clear and as open as possible. I'm sad that the details did not always come across, and that there's now a citing of one sentence out of, the many, many things we said, many of them also very, very critical.
Did you have 130 people observing the election in Kenya?
The EU election observation mission had 130 observers plus experts, indeed. So we had one of the largest international observer teams that were in Kenya.
The question that has now come up is, how can just a small number of people observe an election this big with 40,000 plus polling stations?
Yeah, well, the challenge is always to do with the limited public resources that are available. It's taxpayers' money of European citizens that are dedicated towards the advancement of democracy, including through election observations. It's always a challenge to work with the means that are available. And we are clear that we only speak about what we have observed ourselves. So we don't claim to be in 41,000 polling stations. And of course, it is a challenge for a mission like ours to be everywhere. And on top of that, there's a challenge when you have such a high-tech election process with technological systems that are not available to observers to assess. So there's a part of the process that was, if you will, a black box to any observer. And we've been very clear about that as well.
Now that the Supreme Court overturned the election of President Kenyatta, do you believe any of your reports or any of your statements were in error, were incorrect?
Well, I'm looking forward to learning the details of the reasons why the Supreme Court, in their historic judgment that should be respected by all, why they ruled the way they did. Of course, I'm very keen to learn the details of their findings, especially because they and the lawyer teams had access to specific details that we did not. So I will look forward to comparing those findings of the Supreme Court to our own findings, and our work continues. My observers were in the Supreme Court room when the court ruled, and our work continues, and we will continue to communicate as well with recommendations, with findings, all intended to improve the electoral process in Kenya.
So do you believe, based on your findings and that of your observers, that the Kenyan election was free and fair?
Those are words that we never use, and we have not used them in the past. I have never said such words about the Kenyan elections, and I will not do so in the future, simply because the way in which the EU observes elections is comprehensive. We look at details, and we do not simplify in those terms what we see. And it's a challenge in a media landscape where people are looking for, 140-character tweets or headlines in newspapers or one-liners for television. We have comprehensive observations, and sometimes you will see both very critical points, but also points that are reason for optimism. And I encourage people to look at what we've said until now, and hopefully also at what we will say in the future, because our work continues.
So, will the EU Observer Mission be observing the new presidential election, and what lessons are you taking into that new mission?
We are preparing now to make sure that we can have the resources available, find the experts to come back to Kenya to observe these second elections. So yes, we are deeply committed to continuing our work impartially, independently, at the service of all Kenyan people.
Will you be personally coming back to lead the new Observer Mission by the EU?
Yes.
Excellent. We will look forward to welcoming you back to Nairobi and to speaking to some of these issues. Marija Shaka, thank you so much for speaking to us tonight. It's been a very controversial topic about the observers, not just the EU Observer Mission, but the Carter Center, the African Union, COMESA, and all of that, and something that will certainly be back in focus as the new presidential election takes place on 17th October.